Hey, it's New Thought Talk. I'm your host, the Reverend Steve Walling, from the Spiritual Awareness Center, located in Fresno, California. Fresno, the heart of the Central Valley, and the Central Valley, the heart of the state of California. As I say, each week we got a whole lot of heart going on here. I want to thank you for being with us today. I hope you enjoyed the previous shows as we've been working through this book by Ernest Holmes, which is entitled Pray and Prosper. We're going to pick it up today. This will be part 6, I believe, of the series we're going through, and I haven't closed at a particular number of parts. It's just when we get through, we'll be done at that point in time. Speaking of points in time, I hope before you open your eyes this morning that you took a moment of time to give thanks for the gift that today was, give thanks for the guidance that you will experience through the day, give thanks for all the good that's unfolding in your life. Know it, declare it. At the level of belief and your receptiveness, it's done unto you. Start each day knowing that, and make each day a new adventure. Regardless of what you may think that life is going to be bringing you, know that you have a bigger God than anything life can bring to you. And so moving forward, last week, as we closed out the lesson last week, I said we will be starting on page 29 in the book today, which at this point the topic is Prayer Converts Substance into Action and Supply. Now, this concept of substance, some people they kind of get their mind a little wrapped around it as if they're looking for something. And in reality, substance is more of a spiritual, energetic beingness, if you will, than it is something that's tangible, okay? When we speak our word, when we are in that state of affirmative prayer and we're speaking our word, and what I mean by when I say we are speaking our word, we have quieted the mind, and we have within our own inner beingness begun to speak, to state a declaration of that which it is that we seek to see demonstrated in our life or in the life of others possibly. But as the words, whether we speak them out loud or whether we are speaking them within our own conscious awareness of them, the words we speak are, in truth, they're thoughts, and thoughts have power. And as we create those word thoughts, if you will, there is something that divine principle has provided that we refer to as the law, that responds to the words when they're spoken. So when we state our affirmation, if you will, our declaration in that moment of speaking our word, and again, when I say moment, don't be fooled. As we speak our word, that could be a rather lengthy time as we're going through this, because the ultimate goal that we want to get to as we speak our word is to, within our own inner understanding, our own inner imagination, if you will, a place where we recognize the reality of existence already of that which we're speaking our word for. And we recognize it in a inner knowingness that as if it is already here, demonstrating, manifesting in front of us. But we have to get to that point of knowingness. Anything short of that, we're short because our level of belief may not be enough. We may have a little doubt, maybe a little anxiety, many different things. But with practice and continued practice, we can get to the point to where when we speak our word, we can speak it with an intention and an expectation that demonstration is manifested. And the point in time where we arrive at that demonstration is already predetermined, if you will. It's already happened. We just haven't got there yet, so to speak, okay? So how does this take place? Ernest Holmes says that we create the mold, if you will, in our conscious mind, and that the law, it fills that mold, and that whatever it is that fills that mold within our imagination, if you will, within our mind, that is what we call spiritual substance. So spiritual substance it's an intangible reality, if you want to put it in those terms, that is the underlying substrate of demonstration, of manifestation, as we speak our word, as we affirm in our treatment. But it's only as firm, if you will, as the level of our belief, receptiveness, understanding, faith. So he says prayer converts substance into action and supply. So let's look at this. He says, if we would pray and prosper, we should realize that we are surrounded by a spiritual substance. In other words, we're surrounded, immersed in, and thoroughly saturated with, if you will, divine principle, that which we call God, Spirit, first cause, however you want to, lay that name, out of which all things are made. God did not create in some place down the street, so to speak. God doesn't create someplace anywhere in our life, but rather right here. So he says, I'm going to go back here. He says, we are surrounded by a spiritual substance, which is forever taking form of supply. Wherever we look, we should see right action. Wherever we look, we should see. Now, this is kind of an interesting statement. Wherever we look, we should see right action. But we get caught up in our relationship with material living, material life that we call materialistic reality, and we don't necessarily see right action, right? We see all the chaos, we see all the stuff. Can we look out into the world and see right action in a world that seemingly is doing nothing more than demonstrating chaos? And the truth is, we can. Again, it's something that we have to practice to get to that point, but it's important that we do. And we'll get into that a little bit later. He says, spiritual communion enables us to do this. It lifts our thought above the solid fact of a situation or circumstance. It resolves the fact into fluid. It remolds it into new form, straightens out the lines of our energy into harmonious currents of self-expression. We're looking out into a world, our personal world experience right now, I'm talking about. We're looking out into that world, and we are being challenged by something. There is some challenge, some obstacle, if you will, some obstruction to our moving forward, our continued good, our expression at an ever greater, higher level degree of livingness. And seemingly, if we just accept that as being so, that challenge, if you will, provides a stopping point that we can't get around. But we don't have to accept that as truth. We can accept it as maybe a condition, but conditions can be changed. Conditions can be changed, and we can be the affirmative factor in that change as we speak our word with faith, confidence, and belief, knowing that there is a greater good, a bigger God than whatever that circumstance is. Now, what we want to make sure that we don't do is try to ascribe the line, if you will, the sequence of events that need to take place in order for us to transcend whatever that is. We got to get beyond that. We got to open ourselves up into a level of acceptance that what the divine brings to the table is far greater in its ability to bring things to the table than our own ability to imagine things that God can bring to the table. If we say we have a bigger God, then we have to open ourselves up to bigger possibilities than what we can figure, and then accept that out of those possibilities, with God all things are possible, that a demonstration and manifestation takes place. We can do that. So we go on. He says, it lifts our thoughts above the solid fact of a situation or circumstance. It resolves that fact into fluid. It remolds it into new form. It straightens out the lines of our energy into harmonious currents of self-expression. Now, does that make a little more sense to you now when I read it a second time? He says, there is but one final essence. And essence here, he says, it's with a capital E, and we're talking about, again, principle, God, first cause. There's just one, which is pure spirit. He says the act of prayer in spiritual communion lifts the consciousness into a perception of this essence flowing out into action. That's kind of what I described when I said when we open ourselves up in our imagination, we create that mold, if you will. That mold is the architectural outline of the solution that we seek to see as in our experience. Whatever it is, it's the line drawing, if you will. And then when we bring feeling and knowingness, acceptance, understanding, faith, and belief, that line drawing begins to fill out. It takes on three-dimensional factors. It becomes a reality within ourselves that we know is already so. That's not, and I'm not talking about wishful thinking. This is a very real process, and again, it's a process that anybody can be involved with, but we got to know going in that there's a commitment on our part to get to that point. You know, that commitment is to remove doubt, remove anything that pulls us out of alignment with principle. And remember, we define principle ultimately as love, a love that we can't even really begin to define, but if we can think of anything in our life experience that we are holding or thinking or believing in that holds us out of an alignment with love, even in the limited way that we understand love, then we know at least at that level that we're out of alignment with principle. And we have to move beyond that. We have to let it go. And that out of alignment may be a belief in limitation. It may be a belief in all sorts of things that, you know, growing up, it just became part of our experience, our reality, and we embodied it even at a level that we weren't aware of. When we become aware that there is a power and a presence for good in the universe that is available to each and every one of us at the level that we open our hearts, minds, and we embody it in the form of belief powered by faith, at that level, we can move away from whatever limitations we've experienced in life. So, he says, the act of prayer, this spiritual communion lifts the consciousness into a perception of this essence flowing into action. At the center of everything, there is something, capital S, something, there is that, which never moves, and yet all movement takes place within it. There is something which itself is not cause, but from which all effects flow. There is, and therefore this essence is both cause and effect. It is the actor, the act, and the action. There is available to each and every one of us a power for good that we can put into practice, that we can utilize, that we can experience, that we can express and direct in our life. And it is the act, the action, and the actor. But we are, if you will, kind of the director in that level in our own life experience. We're going to take our first break, and I'll see you when we come back.
Pour yourself a glass of Crybaby wine, available at the market and Sam's Italian Deli. And remember to ask for Crybaby wine at your favorite restaurant.
Hi, I'm the host of New Thought Talk, Reverend Steve Walling, and I want to take a moment today and give you an opportunity to support our ministry, support our show. You can do that through a PayPal payment. You send the payment through PayPal to the email address of Madera, MADERA SAC @gmail.com. If you don't have a PayPal account, you can go down below the link and you can find where you can enter a debit or credit card. I want to thank those that have supported us and those that will continue to support us. You have a great day. Bye.
Get your copy of Crouching Mama Hidden Veggies today, packed with recipes of delicious food cooked with hidden vegetables, so you can feel confident that you and your family are eating your veggies.
Contact Sprague Electric for all things electrical, solar installations, battery systems, troubleshooting, repairs, and more. Call 559-760-0712. SpragueElectric.com.
Are you or a member of your family beginning to show early signs of forgetfulness that may be Alzheimer's or dementia? The only way to be sure is through an expensive brain scan. Dr. Parminder Bhatia of the Neuropain Medical Center is helping in a clinical trial for those with memory problems, dementia, or mild Alzheimer's disease. Those accepted into the trial will have all costs paid for, from diagnosis to evaluations and trial medicine. There is no cost for those who are accepted in the trial, and there may even be some compensation for the patient's time and travel. For more information, call 559-437-9700, extension 310, and visit neuropain.com.
Hey, welcome back to New Thought Talk. I am your host, the Reverend Steve Walling. Anyway, moving forward, Holmes tells us, he says, some of the ancients spoke of karmic law, or what today we call the law of cause and effect, as the result of the fruits of our actions. There is what we often call the great law, the law of cause and effect. And it has been equated with the karmic law. That's true. However, we have an understanding that unlike karmic law, which says we're tied into the effects from whatever our particular causes were, and there is no freeing ourselves, we can't extricate ourselves. In the great law of cause and effect, that we have the ability to, as Holmes puts it, to change our position within the law. In other words, if we have created the sequence of events that are of a negative output, demonstration, through our beliefs in limitation or disease or lack or whatever, that we have believed that, and as a result of our beliefs, we're experiencing these things in our life experience, that we can change our position by changing our beliefs. Now, changing beliefs can be difficult or it can be easy, and it's different from person to person and belief to belief, but it is something that we all can do. We all have the ability to do. Remember that incredible power that was gifted us at our creation, which is the power of volition, the power to make choices, to choose different paths, to look at something and go, you know what, this is not part of the reality that I wish to experience, because I know and accept that there is a greater reality, a greater good that I can embody and express into my life, because I am expressed as the image and the likeness of divine principle, the nature, and that I have the ability to go within myself, to align myself with principle, to speak my word, to state a greater truth in my life, and then have an intention, an expectation to see that greater truth demonstrated. It's available to each and every one of us. This is what was taught so many years ago, and we teach it today in New Thought and in religious science, science of mind and spirit, and it's available to each of us. Most people get kind of caught up on two different areas. One, they have difficulty expanding their belief in that, but that can be overcome. But the other is oftentimes a little more difficult, and that is, as I've talked a little bit earlier, about aligning ourselves with principle and giving up limiting beliefs, giving up judgment, giving up our acceptance of things that are not God ordained, if you will, in conditions that we see in life or expressions. But in so doing, creating within ourselves an acceptance of all of God's creation, being all of God's creation, and therefore we love our neighbors, we love ourselves, and our neighbors include all of creation. I will reiterate this again, as I've done each time when I've said this. That doesn't mean that we have to subject ourselves to bad behavior, if you will. That's what good, healthy boundaries are for. And we can also set good and healthy boundaries. Moving forward, prayer in action. Holmes quotes a friend of his that was alive back in the day, and her name was Evelyn Underhill, and she talks about how prayer used to be and how prayer what we call scientific prayer should be today. And what prayer used to be, very simplistically, is that supplication, going to God and hoping that God's going to answer our prayer, because God may have deemed us not necessarily so worthy, right? We have to erase that from our consciousness, from our mind. We have to know that we are partners with the divine principle. We are partners with God, and God's ultimate purpose in our life is to see to it that we live our life at the highest, greatest degree of livingness in the most powerful, productive, positive fashion, demonstrating God's perfection in our life. The closer we get to doing that, the closer we come to actually living our purpose. So, taking that aside, he says, if God is in all events, then we should go forth gladly to meet them, not only in the stillness of the evening or the quiet of midnight, but also the rising tide of human endeavor when the spiritual sun climbs high, flooding the earth with its effluent glory, and is the presence of God revealed. This is a very interesting thought, and Holmes, you'll find this in some of his writings, and it's such a powerful thought. Oftentimes it gets shunted by the side because people tend to focus on other things. But the idea that we, as individuals, working and going within ourselves, creating a greater and higher degree of livingness within ourselves, as we do that, as we lift ourselves up, we lift others around us up. As others lift themselves up, they lift others around themselves up. There is a potential possibility of changing the world in an incredibly abundant, positive, loving way as we demonstrate divine principle in all of life in its expression in the world. But it's not about going out and telling the world how the world has to live. It's about doing it within ourselves and then having that expectation, that intention to see it expressed. It's an incredible concept. Holmes talked about it early on. Later teachers in the 20th century talked about the effect of the 100th monkey, or the Maharishi effect, or Rupert Sheldrake talked about, I forget the particular verbiage he used, but they're all talking about if we get a large enough segment of the population, and we're not talking a huge amount. Maharishi effect says 1/10 of 1%. So go figure, do the math. That if we can bring that many people into alignment with principle, and that's not saying that they have to align themselves with principle as we instruct, but just align themselves with principle, that we will effectively create and bring change to the entire world. An awesome thought. It's something that I know Holmes believed in, and I follow his belief in that direction. I believe that it can be done unto all of us as we believe, and we hold that belief in truth and good and love and God. So we move forward, and he says, under joy and enthusiasm, he says, it has been said that joy infuses the commonplace with a creative activity. Emerson said the only thing he learned about grief is its emptiness. Jesus spoke of the joy which he had and which he desired his disciples to have, that their joy might be full. There is a song at the center of everything. The music of the spheres is no illusion. We must uncover the song and permit it to saturate our souls with joy. As we're speaking our word, as we are in prayer, our prayer should be filled with joy, should be filled with feeling of life and wholeness. We have to be careful of assigning levels of seriousness to those things that we're speaking our word, that we're praying for. You get so serious that you bring yourself back into a negative mindset, if you will. No matter what it is that you're speaking your word, whatever it is that you want to see demonstrated in your life, it doesn't make any difference. There is a level of joy within that you wish to see demonstrated when we can behold that in our imagination, when we can feel that in ourselves, when we can know that joy as a reality, as if it is already so. We've gotten within ourselves to that point, to that end point where we know we have that intention and expectation. We know that we have spoken our word, and it is so. It exists at some level, in some place, and we're going to see it in some time. When we do that, we let go. We don't try to, see what we can do to help it out, so to speak. Now, Holmes does talk about treating and moving your feet, praying and moving forward, absolutely. But there's a difference between praying and moving forward with confidence, knowing that that which you have affirmed is to be demonstrated and manifested in your life, versus moving forward trying to make sure that you've covered all the bases, if you will, in order that what you've prayed for may have the possibility and the intention, or the odds of demonstrating. What you've really demonstrated is a belief in doubt, an apprehension, wondering if God can do it in God's way rather than the way that you see that it needs to move forward. And we have to be careful about this. We have filled our consciousness, both individual and humanity, with such a degree of clutter and chaos, if you will, that we have to be wary. We need to move that out, open ourselves up to accept and experience a greater good. Okay? So spiritual communion will cause the angels of our better half to sing, making our consciousness happy. Spiritual communion is not a droll affair. It is not a wailing wall. It is the triumphant procession of the soul into the secret place of the Most High, where the scroll of life is taken from the Ark of the Covenant, on which we are inscribed in the joyous words, I am the Lord thy God. I am the Lord thy God, in the midst of me. In the Ark of the Covenant, the words are inscribed. Do you think it's at all possible that in the silence, in the spiritual beingness of yourself, that you could contemplate that as an inner reality and the truth of who and what you are? Can you do that? And truth be told, I know the answer before I've spoken it. You can. People have done it. And what any individual has done, if we know what they've done and use the same things that they've used, we have a very solid right and expectation to see the same demonstration. And it's basically on that theory, if you will, that Ernest Holmes called this spiritual philosophy a science. In other words, if we do what any other person has done and moved in the same way and done the things with the expectation to see the same outcome, we have every right to expect that outcome demonstrated in our life. And we can do that. People have done it before us. People are doing it today, believe it or not. Believe it or not, it's ongoing. We're going to take our next break, and I'll see you when we come back.
With Organic Pastures Raw Milk, you're getting a product that has been meticulously managed from grass to glass. From our pastures to our dairy, creamery, and distribution, we work hard to produce a product that is safe and clean for you.
Got lactose intolerance or dairy allergies? Discover delicious raw milk and discover dairy the way it's supposed to be. We provide tours and would love to see you. Come visit the cows, watch the milking, the cheese being made, and learn all about raw milk. We're just 20 miles south and west of Fresno, California. Call to schedule a tour at 559-846-9732.
The Saga of Bridget and Amanda by Carol Love Forbes brings to life the struggles of historical women in early America. Find the Saga of Bridget and Amanda on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and order your copy today.
You enter this door with expired tags. Beyond is another dimension, a dimension of regulations, a dimension of long waits. You have reached the registration zone. What looks like an ordinary shop is actually Mitchell Smog, located in the heart of the Tower District, a few minutes from the DMV. Mitchell Smog offers your vehicle a STAR-certified smog inspection. So remember Mitchell Smog when you need to pass through the registration zone.
Christy Majors is your local real estate connection. With a solid, hardworking team, traditional listings, short sales, probate listings, and foreclosures are treated in a personal and caring way and close in a timely fashion. Since 2009, Team Majors has closed more than $75 million worth of homes all over California. Reliable and trustworthy, Christy and her team will go the extra mile for every client, whether selling or buying a home. So give Team Majors a call at 559-464-5606 or visit teammajors.com.
After a tough day at the track, cleaning up can be a time-consuming task. That's why we use Extreme Cleaner, the non-toxic, biodegradable, multi-purpose cleaner and degreaser. Extreme Cleaner cuts through even the toughest of grease and grime. Fast. Great for cleaning tools and work surfaces. Extreme Cleaner. Tough on grime, safe on the environment. Visit extremecleaner.com to find a retailer near you.
When you experience flooding in your home, you need to call Clean Master Emergency Flood Service at 559-213-9430. After soaking in water for only 45 minutes, carpet starts to come apart. Clean Master Emergency Flood Service can help, and not just with carpet repair. They also offer carpet cleaning, upholstery cleaning, carpet installation, and more. Call Clean Master Emergency Flood Service, and they'll be there in 60 minutes. Call 559-213-9430.
CentralValleyTalk.com.
Call PG's Catering for all your special occasions. Available to cook any variety of foods and desserts that will leave.
Welcome back to New Thought Talk. I'm your host, the Reverend Steve Walling, and today we're going through a continuing process of Pray and Prosper, a book written by Dr. Ernest Holmes in 1944. It is available. You can purchase it online or probably through, if you happen to belong to a CSL center, if they have a bookstore, you can get it. I highly recommend it, even for so-called veterans of this philosophy. It's a great book to go back and kind of renew your thinking, renew your mind. So, moving forward, we finished up this last segment with the idea of realizing within ourselves the words that I am the Lord thy God in the midst of thee. And that's a big step, isn't it, for us to take if we believe that we're not worthy, for example, if we believe that we're less than, if we believe that we're subject to the vagaries, the limitations, the beliefs of the material world, to know and to go within ourselves and to realize that sits at the center of our being, if you will. The God within, the Christ within, it's there and awaits each and every one of us for us to uncover that light that it seeks to express itself ever greater, ever brighter in our life experience. And he says, the prayer of thanksgiving. Now, he says, we enter into the gates with thanksgiving. He says, make a joyful noise unto the Lord. Of course, this is a quote. He says, bless, O Lord, my soul, and all that is within me. Bless his holy name. Bringing thanksgiving always. If you remember when I spoke about how we open our day, in effect, we're kind of speaking our word, if you will, in that moment before we open our eyes, when we give thanks to God, to principle, to source, to spirit, however you relate to it, for this day as a gift that was given to you, to me, to express, to live, to create a higher, greater degree of livingness, and knowing in the core of your being that is the purpose of this day for you in this life experience. I mean, it's just incredibly awesome, right? So he says we are told to make known our request with thanksgiving. And why wouldn't we and why shouldn't we be grateful when we realize that the divine gift is forever made? The divine gift is forever made. We understand at some level, but we've got to understand in an inner knowingness that, if you will, kind of metaphorically speaking, at the inception of our individual creation, at that same moment, and within God, there is no time, so there's no specific moment. But at that same, whatever it is, that we were created, it's individualized expression of God in that same time, place, whatever, in potential, everything that we could need, want, and desire to live this life, to live it effectively, abundantly, prosperously, and at greater, higher degrees of livingness, living at the level that we were created to live with the genius that we were created to express in this life. And as I've said before, within each and every one of us, at the core of our being, there is a genius there. Now, that genius is different for each of us as our fingerprints, but it's there nonetheless. Our journey is to discover that genius within ourselves. Clues for that discovery are, what are your passions? What are your desires? What are your likes? If they are life-affirming, if they take from no other individual, that's probably a good place to start. And it doesn't make any difference where you're at in your life expression at this time. Some people think, well, I'm too old. No, wrong, you're not too old. You just got to sit down and put in the time, so to speak, to make that discovery. If I were to tell you that I could give you a roadmap, if you will, that will take you to a gold mine where there is so much gold that awaits you that no one else has access to. If I could convince you of that, you would be more than willing to take that map and go on that journey. Essentially, we're talking about the same thing, that within you there is a gold mine, if you will, that is the potential of all that you could need, want, and desire to express in this life in incredible ways. And because it is so individualized, that there's nothing that for you that would take from another to do what their journey is. We got to know that and embody it and put it into practice, and we begin to see it unfold in our life. He says, so we know that when we praise animals, they respond to us. We know that when we praise children, they cooperate with us. And since intelligence operating through the animal and the child responds to praise and thanksgiving, why shouldn't everything respond in like manner? When we say that there's one life and that life is God, are we excluding any given thing, including things that we don't necessarily think of as being living? There's one life. That life is God. That life is expressing as our life now. We're on that train, and it's taking us to wherever we can imagine that it will take us in our imagination for a greater, more prosperous, abundant, greater life of more livingness. And about that time is when the thoughts of limitation come in, the thoughts of, this is just so much, maybe not, it's just fancy thinking, it's not reality and stuff. Don't succumb. Don't be tempted to be sucked in to limitation in your beliefs, in your inner knowingness. I don't care. Well, I care for each and every one of you, but I don't care what it is that you think that limits you. I know for you, as an individualized expression of God, I know for you that you can express life at a higher, greater degree of livingness. Just believe in yourself and believe in that which exists within you. Start there every day in thanksgiving and move forward. Move forward with prayer, praise, and again in thanksgiving. Be thankful. People get caught up in the idea that, well, my life is not so good. You know what? Your life is great at the level that you can imagine it to be great, even in the space where you're at. Find those things. You have things to be thankful for. Find those things. Focus on those things. Claim those things. Be grateful. Live in gratitude for those things. And as you speak your word, as you're stepping out on this journey of prayer, of affirmation that we've been talking about, that there is a prosperity that awaits you. Move in that direction within yourself. It's that journey that only you can travel. But you and you alone can do that traveling. So moving forward, he says, in the next thing, he says, the self-creative energy of prayer. And he quotes a Dr. Carroll in an article on prayer that suggests that faith is a luminous and self-creative energy. Faith lays hold of a power which is not only creative, but which creates out of its own being. It is self-energizing. You know, one of the things that they say about faith, it is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. You know, there's many different ways that people talk about faith. One of the things that I like to think of when I think of faith, faith is that power, that power that we put in to that which we claim that we believe. You know, if we say we believe that God is good, and we fail to have faith in God's goodness expressing in our life, our belief has no power. But if we say that God is good and we back it up with a powerful inner faith, that inner faith creates within ourselves an intention and expectation to see a manifestation of that which we state that we believe, and we will. It will out in our life. Okay, so it's important. We have to bring faith. You know, last week I shared that simple little tool that I use with people as they're beginning to work through their own life experience, which is to pray and to meditate and to study. Prayer, meditation, and study. Now, those three things, put them together to build your faith, to grow your faith, to power your belief, to constantly, consistently challenge yourself for change in your life. Change your beliefs and you change your life. You can do that. Real quick before we go to our next break, he says here, the creative energy of spirit must be limitless. Therefore, we can set no limit on the possibility of what it can do for us. Undoubtedly, it is able to give us infinitely more than we have expected, understood, or accepted. Infinitely. There's a power and a presence for good that exists and is available within and as and for each and every one of us at the level of our belief. But we've got to open ourselves up. We've got to be in that consciousness of acceptance. You know, we can't pray that something's going to demonstrate in our life, speak our word, if you will, and then, you know, say, well, you know, I'm only worth a little bit. How can you be worth only a little bit if you are God expressed as you? God is infinite. You're worth a level of infiniteness. Think about that. We're going to take our last and final break, and I'll see you when we come back.
Ghost Golf is Fresno's most spectacular family entertainment center. It's frightening how much fun you'll have on our 18-hole indoor haunted graveyard course. Skeletons welcome you, but watch out. All sorts of creatures may come to life. Ghost Golf is perfect for scary good parties, so book yours today. You'll get free plays at the Mummy Shooting Gallery, arcades, and air hockey. Check out our party and weekday specials online and like us on Facebook. Come play at family-friendly Ghost Golf. Good times will haunt you.
At McDermott Counseling, you will receive the highest level of care and a welcoming, safe space in which to discuss your most personal issues. Our therapists go above and beyond for you. Call 559-280-5756 or visit McDermottCounseling.com to find a caring therapist who best suits your needs.
Diane Ainsworth's books of poetry and scriptures are available at CondioPress.com and as ebooks at Amazon.com. Diane hopes the words in her books will convey the unconditional love Jesus has for you. Learn more at God'sInspirationsBlog.wordpress.com and get a copy of Diane's books today. Call PG's Catering for all your special occasions. Available to cook any variety of foods and desserts that will leave your taste buds wanting more. Call 559-558-2682 and follow Peaches on Instagram and Facebook. Connect with Dr. Alan Hedberg. Watch Dr. Teach Me to Parent on CentralValleyTalk.com Saturdays at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Listen to The Psychology Report anytime at thepsychologyreport.buzzsprout.com. Visit booksbyhedberg.com and order a book for your personal growth. and join the conversation on twitter.com/Alan G. Hedberg.
Welcome back to New Thought Talk. I am your host, the Reverend Steve Walling. I hope you've been enjoying the show today as we move forward through our book, Pray and Prosper, written by Dr. Ernest Holmes. And when we went to the break, I was talking about the creative energy of Spirit of God must be limitless, he says. Therefore, we can set no limit to the possibility of what it can do for us. God is infinite. God's creation is ongoing. Our ability to express within that creation is based in the connectedness, if you will, that we have to our source, to God itself. And we know, we are told we are created in the image and the likeness, which is the nature of God, that which God utilizes, if you will, or Spirit utilizes, the creative ability of choice was gifted to us as humanity, and we can utilize that at the level of our belief, of our understanding. Opening ourselves up to an acceptance of a belief in an infiniteness it's a big job, no doubt about it, but it is a job that we can all accomplish at some level. Earlier today, I had the opportunity to visit with a couple of people that are involved with certain things in their own life experience. And as I was asking them, do you enjoy doing what you're doing? You could see their whole countenance, their whole energy light up. And, they shared with me how much passion that they brought to what it is they're doing. And as they were stating this, you could almost feel that energy as a tangible something, that you could experience along with them. And we can all get to that point. We can bring our passion, our joy, our feeling of love, wholeness, and completeness into all that we do. And again, we have to learn. If this tool has not been in our toolbox, we have to learn how to do it. But we can all do it, and declare today that you're going to make that a priority this day, this week, and you're going to continue until you begin to get some feedback from yourself, from life itself, as to the forward motion that you're making. Before we went to the break, I gave that little tool that I teach. Here's another tool that I want to share with you as you're walking your path. Don't look to the horizon to try to determine how much forward progress you've made, because just like when we walk along the face of the earth, as we move forward, the horizon is always moving forward. Stop and look back and see where you came from. From that perspective, you can begin to get some idea. If it's embodying a new belief that you didn't have, last week, last month, if it's seeing more good, manifest in your life. I've had in my own personal expression, even as I work through my own spiritual path, I'm seeing things this week, and I'm noticing how certain intentions, certain things that I sought to see demonstrated in my life are coming about, and in ways that I would have never considered, never thought of, but I'm thankfully, in a position of acceptance, and that's something that you can do also. So, and we do that, and I'm going to move forward here because I want to finish this last segment before we close out for today, and that is under the field of faith. He says, wherever people meet together for prayer and spiritual communion, a field of faith is created which reacts upon everyone who enters it. One of the blessings about being a minister is, I show up every Sunday, and I share with like-minded people. But, for those that are not, I see there's people that, they love what it is we teach, but they don't make themselves important enough to show up on Sunday. Now, the reason why it's important to show up on Sunday is not because there's some deity or something that's taking role, if you will, but by showing up on Sunday and possibly taking classes or other things that your church or your center is involved with. By showing up at those events, you become a part of that spiritual field, not only as a recipient, but also as a provider for the others that show up. You know, have you ever noticed that if you show up and like all the seats are full on Sunday and there's just a feeling, it's wow, how great it is, you know, make yourself important enough to be there that you can experience that, because as you experience that, it is a reinforcement, if you will, on a psychological, subconscious, spiritual level within yourself. You know, the feedback of good that you're being fed, that you're experiencing, and that as you experience it, that you feedback, you give back into it, and you become an ever more important part of this so-called spiritual body that you participate with. So it's important, he says, as we move forward, he says, an atmosphere of reality has been recognized. A new vibratory law has been set in motion. It is easy to break one twig, but if we bind many twigs together, they become unbreakable. In group consciousness, the individual faith of each member is strengthened through the union with all the others. In union, there is strength. And this is just as true in our mental and spiritual life as it is in the body of our affairs. What an awesome thought. And yet, oftentimes, we don't think about it. You know, there are people that enjoy the Sunday experience or other experiences that their center and their churches provide, because it's a nice time to get together, to be social, you know, and we kind of feel good. But it really is much more important than that for each and every one of us as we partake of it, as we begin to bring our energy into it and receive the energy there back into ourselves. You know, life is a constant ebb and flow of good going back and forth. We breathe in, we breathe out, we experience, we express, and this is so important as we walk our spiritual path. So when we're talking about this concept of pray and prospering, you know, where we spend our time on a spiritual level is as much important to us as the consciousness that we bring to prayer itself. And so I want to finish this. I'm going to go through this. He says, we always should seek the companionship of those whose faith may be added to ours. Thought atmospheres are real enough. I want you to think about this as I'm reading this. These are words that Dr. Ernest Holmes wrote when he was very much alive, very much involved with the organization that created around this philosophy that he called Science of Mind and Spirit. Think about the people that were coming. Think about the people that experienced the good, that expressed the good, and think about that he was not only someone that was sharing his thoughts and his consciousness, but he was also experiencing and expressing good back into what he experienced. As he said, he says, thought atmospheres are real enough. We sense them in the quiet of the cathedral or at the shrines where countless thousands have gathered, with uplifted faith seeking communion with the eternal reality. Thus, the power of one is multiplied through combining it with the power of others. This is not because the Spirit listens to many more than it does to just one, but because often many create a larger hope and a greater expectancy. They develop a real dynamic field of faith. You know, we talked about growing faith, building faith. Man, there's no greater place to experience the faith that you are growing within yourself than to be with like-minded people of faith. There's no greater place to experience when you can share with others. And this ebb and flow, like I said, this back and forth, it's powerful. And it's something that unless you make it a commitment to make yourself so important to yourself that you show up to these places where you can experience and express and be thankful and give back and move around in and all the other things that being there can bring into your experience in that moment. You know, it's amazing. Oftentimes, you know, as I close our Sunday lesson, I close with thanksgiving for those that have chosen to make themselves so important that that they found a way to show up regardless of other things going on in their life. And how easy is it for us to have other things in our life? But to show up, to be there, to experience, and to express into that experience doesn't get any better than that. It's there, it awaits you on your journey in your life as you work on praying and prospering in your life. I want to thank you for joining with me today. I hope that what I shared with you as we have moved through this book has been valuable to you, that you have taken things that you can put into practice in this week in your life. Maybe you have, purchased a copy. Read ahead, go back and review what we've covered. You really can't go through this book enough because you'll get something more each time you take the time to go through it. So once again, thanks for being with us today. Next week we will pick up, we'll be at the bottom of page 35 under prayer and recognition. I'm looking forward to talking about that. I hope you're looking forward to being a part of that conversation. And again, thanks for being with us. Know that as you go through the week, the light of God surrounds you, the love of God enfolds you, the power of God protects you, the presence of God watches over you, because wherever you are, God is there. I mean, what a thought. Wherever I'm at, God is there. Wherever you're at, God is there. And all is well. Have a great week. Thank you for being with us. I'll see you next time.